In June 2021, India expressed concerns over China's expanding naval presence in the South China Sea and called for a peaceful resolution of the disputes in the region. India's Ministry of External Affairs issued a statement, and I quote, "Freedom of navigation and overflight in the South China Sea should not be impeded and the dispute should be resolved peacefully based on international law." Unquote. In January 2022, India conducted joint naval exercises with Japan, United States, Australia in the South China Sea. The exercise, known as the Quad, were seen as a show of force against China's growing naval presence in the region. Now the question is, why is India so concerned about China's growing presence in the South China Sea? What happens if China starts controlling the entire South China Sea? Before I answer these questions, let us first understand what the South China Sea is all about. Part 1. Importance of South China Sea. The South China Sea is a body of water that is bordered by several countries including China, Vietnam, Philippines, Malaysia and Indonesia. It is a strategically important waterway that connects the Indian Ocean with the Pacific Ocean. It is a major shipping route for international trade. South China Sea is a region of tremendous economic and geostrategic importance. 1/3 of the world's maritime shipping passes through it, carrying over $3 trillion in trade each year. Huge oil and natural gas reserves are believed to lie beneath its seabed. It also contains lucrative fisheries which are crucial for the food security of millions in Southeast Asia. Tensions have escalated in recent years as China has built artificial islands in the South China Sea and militarized them despite objections from other countries in the region and the international community. This has raised concerns about China's intentions in the region and its willingness to use force to assert its territorial claims. Part 2. China's claims on South China Sea. To understand China's claims over the South China Sea, you will first have to know about the 9-dash line. The 9-dash line is a demarcation line used by China to claim much of the South China Sea, including various small islands and features within it. This line was first officially introduced by the Chinese government in 1947, and it encompasses an area of approximately 2.6 million square kilometers. So China says that the entire area that falls under these 9 dotted lines is part of their territory. Essentially, based on the geographical area under the 9-dash line, China wants to control the entire South China Sea. However, the 9-dash line overlaps with the exclusive economic zones of several other countries in the region such as Vietnam, Philippines, Malaysia and Brunei. This is leading to territorial disputes and tensions between these nations and China. Part 3. Why is South China Sea so important to China? The total area of South China Sea is around 3.5 million square kilometer or around 35 lakh square kilometer. The South China Sea holds about 190 trillion cubic feet of natural gas and 11 billion barrels of oil reserves as per US Energy Information Agency. Now these are huge numbers. Other than this, 30% of world's trade passes through the South China Sea. 10% of world's fishing happens on South China Sea. Now, if China controls the South China Sea, then every ship passing through the South China Sea will have to pay taxes to China and will require China's permission. In simple words, China is going to completely control 30% of world's trade and tremendous amount of natural gas and oil reserves. This will make China the undisputed global leader. And that's precisely why South China Sea is so important to China. Part 4. Why is South China Sea so important to India? Now, India does not share any border with South China Sea. Yet, India has been heavily invested in the activities happening around the South China Sea. But why? Why is South China Sea so important to India? What is it that India is so cautious about? You see, nearly 55% of India's trade with the Indo-Pacific region passes through the South China Sea. In numerical terms, this is a volume of $200 billion. This number may reach $300 billion by 2025. So if China starts controlling the South China Sea, it will be a big blow for India. India's trade with the Indo-Pacific region is going to be heavily impacted. Now the question is, what is India doing to protect its interests? And that's part 5 for you. What is India doing to protect its interests? Before I tell you what India is doing to protect its interests, I need to tell you one historical fact, and that is China has long been in dispute with Vietnam over the territorial claims of 2 islands, Paracel and Spratly. Both countries, that is China and Vietnam, claim these islands to be their own. Now this provides India an opportunity to befriend an enemy's enemy. What do I mean? You see, India has joined hands with Vietnam to counter China's efforts to unilaterally control the South China Sea. If China gets control of these 2 islands, that is Paracel and Spratly, China is effectively going to control a major portion of the South China Sea. Neither India nor Vietnam wants that. As a result, India and Vietnam have signed an agreement that will enable the 2 countries to use each other's military bases to repair and replenish supplies. This move will help Indian Navy to increase its presence in the South China Sea. And both India and Vietnam have signed various defense agreements to counter China's aggression in the South China Sea. Apart from this, India's flagship overseas firm ONGC Videsh Limited has got the 7th extension to explore for oil and gas in a Vietnamese block in the contested waters of the South China Sea. Though ONGC Videsh Limited has not found any commercial recoverable oil and gas reserves in the block in the last 16 years, yet it has been exploring this because of India's strategic interest in the South China Sea. Even Vietnam wants India to continue exploring there. Apart from this, India has been expanding its economic ties with countries in the region to enhance its strategic presence. In 2021, India and Singapore signed a memorandum of understanding to strengthen maritime cooperation, including developing port infrastructure in the region. India has also been investing in infrastructure projects in the region, such as the Kaladan Multimodal Transit Transport Project in Myanmar, which will connect the Indian Northeast region to the Bay of Bengal through the Sittwe port in Myanmar. However, given China's continuous aggression in South China Sea, India will need to do a lot more to counter China here. And for that, it requires the cooperation and support of all the countries in the region and also of the West. Let's see how this pans out. I hope it is now clear to you why the South China Sea is so important to India and what is India doing to protect its interests in the South China Sea. Thank you for watching. I will be back again with another video on an interesting topic. Thank you.